So in 2007, I had just climbed to the summit of K2, which is second highest mountain in the world. Some people consider it the hardest mountain in the world. And the last day, or the last camp on the mountain, is actually at 8,000 meters, or 26,500 feet above sea level. So you're camped above a place which is higher than most mountains in the world, almost every mountain in the world except for 3 or 4. And we finally, after 23 hours of climbing up and down through that terrible bottleneck and back down to camp, finally get to camp. And as soon as we get there, the 3 of us, we find just outside of camp this other climber who was completely emaciated, just laying on the ground rather, completely useless. And so for the last few hundred meters across this small flat section, we had to drag him across the shoulder and drag him into our camp. And right about then, this big storm just hit. So this was a complete whiteout. And we had dragged this climber literally into our tent. And at that point, I took off my crampons, put down my ice tools in the vestibule, and I never left the tent that entire night. The 4 of us were just crammed inside this small tent. In the morning, we knew we had to make it down, but this big storm had come through, as I said, complete whiteout, dumped a bunch of snow on top of us. So in the morning, my friends and I had decided we're gonna split up. And the reason why we were gonna split up is something had happened during the night. The storm and the snow had buried the entire camp. And we figure, to the best we can assume, is that somebody had left their crampons outside of their tent and lost them, and had reached into our vestibule in the night when it was all windy and the tent was shaking, we didn't hear a thing, and taken one of the sets of crampons from inside the tent, and they were mine. So here I am at 8,000 meters on arguably the hardest mountain in the world with no crampons, and I gotta make it down. I get outside the tent, complete whiteout, and I go over to the edge of the shoulder and look down. And I say to myself, this is not happening. Seriously, I thought, there is no way I'm gonna make it down. It's just impossible. Statistically, it's impossible to make it down if you're all prepared, but I mean, without crampons, there's just no way I'm gonna do it. So my friends were left to care for the climber that we had rescued in the night. And a few other climbers from some other countries didn't know where to go, and they were looking at me, and I kind of have this like sixth sense. I just always know where I'm going for some reason. And I told them, yeah, I know the way down. If you wait for me, I'll show you the way down. So I walked up to the edge, had my ice tools in hand, and literally had to step 1 foot over the next, over the edge, and start lowering myself on my tools, sliding down in the snow, boots scraping on the ice. Sometimes it was snow and I could dig in, and other times you'd hit hard patches in a complete whiteout. And every step down I made, I was surprised, I was shocked at myself that I was actually still alive. And 5 or 6 hours passed. We'd made a few errors, made a few turns here and there. Again, just lowering myself, and the other climbers were down climbing with their ice tools, until we got to above Camp 3, maybe 100 or 200 meters or a few hundred feet above Camp 3. And we had heard a whistle blowing. Somebody was nice enough to blow a whistle to give us some directions, because they knew without any kind of direction, if you missed camp, you would just walk off the edge of the mountain and into the abyss. And right about that time, I remember above Camp 3 was this really steep, icy section, and it was fixed by a ice picket that was right at the top of it. And I had passed and found the ice picket. I knew at that moment that at least we were gonna find Camp 3. So I turned around to step over the edge of it and felt my feet skating out underneath me. I was so weak, so dehydrated, and so without food that I couldn't manage to pull myself back up onto my ice tools, and both of them popped, and down I went. Started careening right towards Camp 3. And I thought, for sure, I'm done. But I plugged this little snowbank right on the edge. And as soon as I did that, I felt my foot go crack as it turned kind of all the way around the wrong way. So now here I am at Camp 3 in a snowstorm, hadn't eaten in a few days, hadn't drank in a few days, completely exhausted, just climbed the second highest mountain in the world, no crampons, and now I've got a broken leg. So I finally made it to Camp 1. The people that I was climbing down with just took off. My partners were still way above me, trying to drag this other climber down and lower him. And I climbed inside one of the tents, turned my camera on, and spoke to my camera what most desperate words probably I've ever spoken at the time. I thought I was completely finished if nobody helped me down from Camp 1. And then I heard some voices, and some climbers came up. They were reporters that another expedition had hired, not to help me though, but to take down the tents that were in Camp 1. And I desperately said, hey, can you guys help me? I just need a little bit of help. They said, no, we can't help you. We're not here to help you. We're here to take the tents down. I said, second time, this can't be happening to me. This is not happening. So I said, well, at least help me out. I haven't had a drink in a few days. Please, just give me some water. That's all I need just to get down. Just give me a little bit of water. And they said, no, we don't have any water, but we've got Coke. And it was inside the guy's jacket, and he handed me a little cup of it. And here I was, again, completely dehydrated, hadn't had anything to eat in a few days, anything to drink in a few days, and I've got warm Coke bubbling out of my nose. Oddly enough, though, Coke has a lot of sugar. So I climbed, it pumped me up a little bit, and I climbed outside the tent, and there was a rope at that point that you could lower yourself below Camp 1. And I thought, I'm actually going to make it. I got a little bit of power. I'm going to make it down to the bottom of the mountain. I feel a little more energized because I've had a little bit of Coke. And so I started lowering myself on the rope, and then I heard something falling above me, coming down above me. And I knew that there was something somebody had either fallen or some rocks were coming down with all the noise and commotion. So I just ducked and hid myself into the slope. And all of a sudden, 2 or 3 things hit me in the top of the head. And as they did, they made a weird sound because they were pots and pans. They weren't rocks, they weren't anybody falling. It was the guys that were clearing all the pots and pans out of Camp 1, and they were hitting me as they were coming down. And all I was hoping was one of those commercial guys didn't leave a bottle of oxygen there. That's it. That was that first story.